right, our wonderful audience. Well, that was a brief report to kind of share the essence of World Heart Day. And obviously, when we speak about World Heart Day, it is to raise awareness about cardiovascular diseases. We're very lucky that we've been joined by experts over here who are going to talk about our heart health, how to maintain that, whether to be in love is actually going to help our heart condition to get better or not. That's something which we will be asking from them. So we're very lucky that we've been joined by somebody, first of all, who happens to be a cardiologist, very sorry, an assistant professor at RIC. He happens to be Dr. Muhammad Ali. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Fine, alhamdulillah.
And thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here.
Welcome.
Alongside Dr. Muhammad Ali Saab, we're very lucky that we have been joined by somebody who happens to be a cardiothoracic surgeon at Shifa International Hospital. He is Dr. Asghar Nawaz. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Hello, thank you very much for the invitation.
And thank you
for the
very much.
introduction.
And thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. So first things first, as over here in Pakistan, we certainly do not have this trend of getting ourselves checked up. You know, we want to have parathas, we want to have fried food, we want to eat all sorts of burgers, you know, and we have that appetite that eventually at the end of the day we smell like masalas too. What do you have to say in the first place, whether how do you think good heart health can be maintained, and then we will move on towards the issues and problems one can face.
Okay, as far as heart problems are concerned, we are facing this problem in our part of our part of society and our part of world. Too much problem is regarding heart diseases, especially heart attacks and the disease which is concerned, which is related to coronary arteries. In medical science, you say coronary arteries means the arteries which supply blood to heart itself.
True.
When it becomes blocked, or when there is stenosis, there comes a blockage. So it causes heart attack, and it is you know very well, it's fatal as well. And if you survive, if one survive, then it causes the damage to myocardium, means the muscles of the heart. So first of all, it's a very dangerous thing, and sometimes it doesn't give too much time to report hospital or to report the medical facility. So better to prevent. Prevention is always better than cure. So the prevention is as far as
So I'm very sorry, but before we move on towards prevention and treatments, what I want to ask you is that the lifestyle we have over here in Pakistan, you know, so usually we really do not take into consideration that we really need to exercise, that we need to work out.
Yeah.
I mean, and on top of that, our dietary habits are not as such with which we can say that, you know, hey, you know what, I'm 100% healthy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, very important. As far as this urbanization is concerned, there is too much urbanization. People moving from villages to big cities just for their jobs and so. So in big cities, you know, previously you saw people cycling and everything. Now there is no cycling. This is just they are using transports and these. Automobiles and like that. So that is why the exercise and everything, it's almost vanished away in our life. So as far as exercise and these concerned, these are vanished away. So our dietary habits as per old rituals, desi ghee, makhan, malai and everything. So to digest these things better, you have to do exercise. Previously, there was less cardiac diseases because people were used to eat these things, desi ghee, makhan, everything like that, but they do have exercise. So now there is no exercise, so just a paradoxical effect. We are using same things, and on the same time we are not exercising.
True.
So it's very much concerning
thing. So moving on to our another guest, sir. So we have seen that South Asians are more prone to the heart diseases, right? And that is because we are more prone towards the risk factors. We're more exposed towards them. Do you want to shed light on that?
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for organizing this awareness program, because this is really important, and that's what the Western countries do. I've been there for 17 years.
Yeah, you're excellent.
Prevention is where, you know, awareness comes in, first of all. So for your audience to understand what are the risk factors, there are certain risk factors which you can change, certain risk factors which you cannot change. So let me tell you first of all, so the main risk factors for heart disease is smoking, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol level, and obesity, lack of exercise. And in my usual practice, I'm very new to the Pakistan at the moment, but we always used to say to the people for the prevention of the heart is you are what you eat.
Yeah.
True.
So you have, you know, given this message repeatedly again and again since the start of this program, and this is the real message which needs to go to the people. First of all, look at what you're eating, and secondly, do you really need all that? So you need to consume it. like my colleague said, we need to do exercise, we need to go to the gym. We need to find the ways to keep our heart under control. Now, that's one thing. Second thing is the control of these risk factors. If you have any of these diseases already, then obviously take regular medication. If you don't, then adopt the measures for them not to happen in you.
True.
And I said there are certain risk factors you cannot change. And one of the important risk factors in heart diseases is the family history. That is the only one you cannot change.
True, true.
So obviously you don't have a control in that. But for the rest of it's exercise, it's diet, and the control of your other
Exactly.
risk factors.
And sir, in addition to that, what I would certainly want to ask you is to draw a comparison, because alhamdulillah you had practiced, outside Pakistan too as well. You happen to be a surgeon. What are the most common surgeries taking place when we talk about heart surgeries, in the West, and when we, since you're here already in Pakistan, what are the most common illnesses over here which really need to end up being with the surgeon too as well? So please go ahead.
Yeah. So, the disease pattern are probably similar. Is
Okay.
the frequency, which matters. Now we have relatively shorter life expectancy in this part of the world,
Unfortunately.
and there are reasons behind
अच्छा
that,
जल्दी
obviously.
जान छूट जाती है.
And the other thing is also the most common problem which we face here is the ischemic heart disease,
Yep.
as Dr. Ali mentioned. That's the most common problem. The other problems which are in the heart diseases for which we have to do intervention like operations is the valvular problems. Now the valvular problems, there are two kinds of problems. One is called the rheumatic, when you have some rheumatic fever when you have childhood, and the other is degenerative. Now the degenerative usually comes at a later stage.
True.
And as I said, we don't have a higher life expectancy, we probably don't reach that. So my most common operation here is the CABG, coronary artery bypass grafting, which is for the narrowing of the blood vessels which supply blood to the heart itself.
Exactly, and that's really very common over here
Yeah.
as well. And I want to talk about, how, even whether you need a stent or not, eventually you go to a doctor and they will give you a stent, and then you come back all happy without knowing whether you needed it or not. So we're going to move down to those immoral practices as well. But first things first now, sir, moving back to you, sir. Now what I want to ask you is, what are the most common signs with which people themselves can actually check whether I need to go to a doctor or not? Is it some sort of pain? Is it some sort of discomfort? So what are those things? Please highlight all of those things.
So before highlighting, I will say that if one has a risk factor for ischemic heart disease, so one should be on red alert.
Okay.
So what are the risk factors, as Dr.
And what
Pat
is the
told?
ischemic heart disease, please?
Ischemic heart disease is basically a blocked arteries which causes angina.
All right.
And ultimately it can cause heart attack as
So
well.
what sort of angina pains one's going to
So
get?
what it is, angina pain is exertional type. When one feel pains on exertion, mean on exercise, on walking, on jogging, pain in the chest, and it's it can radiate towards arms as well. It can radiate to neck, and it can radiate to jaw as well.
All right.
And most of the time, initially, it is basically exertional. Mean when you exert, when you walk,
Only
or
that's the
jog,
time when you're
that
going
is
to
the
get that
time,
pain.
yeah, when you get, and its duration is not that much. It's almost 5 to 10 minutes duration, and when you stops, the pain relieved itself.
Okay.
So this is the main thing which we should concentrate. So the pain which lasts.
And what sort of a pain is that?
So it's a different type of feelings. Pain has a different type of, depending upon the individual, but most of the time it's congestion like people sometimes says that there is some congestion, dabaw like
Okay.
pressure, and sometimes burning.
Sometimes pinching?
Yeah, not pinching is
Okay.
not, you can, because it is a diffuse type of pain, not pinpoint at the heart. So most of the time it is a diffuse type of pain, and all these features related to this pain is exertional and relieved on rest. So if someone has a risk factor, then one should be
Very careful
alert.
about
Okay,
Yes.
Dr. Saab, so we're witnessing that there are a lot of climate change related calamities going on around the world, and obviously it is also affecting our health, physical health, right, when it comes to that. So does this subject has also diffused into the cardiovascular studies or the medicine part of it? What do you have to say about it?
As far as climate changes and these things are concerned,
Heat
yes,
stroke, stuff like that.
yeah, I can say that yes, it has some effects, but in our part of society, these things is not that much as far as, because these climate changes and everything can affect lungs and everything, but on the and far as heart is concerned, these are dietary habits and lack of exercise and
Right.
the other non-modifiable risk factors like family history and smoking. These
Right.
are the more important than climate.
Yeah, thank you
Right.
very much for highlighting that. Obviously, it is for the well-being
Right.
of our audiences as well. But now moving on to you, Dr. Saab. Now, what I've seen is, since I think Hajra posed a very important question, because climate change is taking a toll. We cannot keep ourselves hydrated as much as we used to. The temperatures are changing, the working practices are changing. But what I have witnessed is that in some cases post-COVID, what I've seen that people who've actually taken steroids to get out of COVID, they
True.
ended up with atrial fibrillation. There were other issues which were related to lungs in the first place, but that virus or infection, in fact, went onto your heart and then it created problems. Do you think that there is a safe way back home with atrial, issues like atrial fibrillation, and what are the other issues associated with post-COVID symptoms? Can we please talk about it a little?
Yeah. So mostly when the COVID was on its peak, I was in UK at that time. That was March 2020, and mostly we would see people coming with the lungs problems, breathing problems, and the changes we will see was everything was affecting was within the lungs. People were ending up going on to the ventilator and stuff. There was hardly any evidence initially for any problems related with the heart or any other organs in the body. But later on, then we saw it's actually more widespread. So it's not a organic disease which is limited to one organ, but it's a multi-organ disease, because we saw people coming with the problems in the brain, GI, people coming with the clots in the arteries in the legs that would travel up, giving stroke to the people. In terms of the heart itself, we haven't really come across
Such problems.
but the only thing we saw is that when someone's, because the lung and heart, they are interconnected.
True.
Now, me being a cardiopulmonary transplant surgeon, which means I do the transplants for failing heart and lungs. So we know that these are very interconnected. So anything which affects the lung can potentially affect the heart,
Yes.
and the other way around.
Exactly.
So if we have seen this. In terms of arrhythmias can happen because of any reason, and atrial fibrillation is one type of arrhythmias as well, which is the heartbeat goes irregular and maybe faster and the slower.
Yeah.
And that gives symptoms as well as that also gives the hemodynamic compromise, which means your blood pressure may go down and you may not feel well. So as a result, we have to treat these. Mostly they are treated by the medication. We reverse them into sinus rhythm, which is the regular heartbeat. Sometimes we have to do intervention in the form of ablations, which is through putting some catheters.
Okay.
Rarely, when this persists and is resistant to all these treatments, then we have to do surgery. But due to COVID, I don't think we have seen this as a common phenomenon.
Okay.
Okay, lovely. So, Dr. Saab, coming back to you, we have seen that around the world there are movements where they want to make affordable the healthcare system and more accessible to the people around. So obviously we do have that movement here in Pakistan too. So how can we make the cardiovascular treatment more affordable and accessible to the people? Your take on that?
It's a very important question. Related to, I must say that these things were not affordable in the past. Now, and after this program of Prime Minister Health Program, Sehat Sahulat Program, these things are almost free. Cardiac operations means cardiac angiography, angioplasty, and even cardiac surgeries are free in not only in public hospitals. Not only in public government hospitals, but also in private sectors, which are on the panel of this Sehat Sahulat program. So all these procedures are free for any individual who has an identity card from Punjab, from KPK, or from Azad Kashmir. So these things are now covered by state, alhamdulillah. From the previous government it started, and this government, thanks to both of them, they continued this thing.
Lovely,
so it's free almost.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Lovely.
And it's a good news. Obviously, majority of the Pakistanis already know about it. For people who never knew about it, Dr. Saab has actually stated it once again.
Right.
But sir, one last thing towards the end, that is that over here, unfortunately, I'm not talking about each and every cardiologist or a cardiac surgeon. But yes, the ill practices are going to exist in every community and society, where you've seen cases where people who were absolutely perfect were tricked by doctors to getting into stents too as well. And when we talk about stents, what the problem is that, they would say that you actually have to get it from this pharmacy. It's going to come from a German-made company. And how would we know, what a German-made company is? So it ranges from 500,000 rupees to at least 100,000 rupees, where a stent, I believe, originally cost somewhat around 14,000 or 15,000 rupees only. So why do you think that we're making it difficult for people to even get a treatment? For people who are ill, they require it, and for people who do not require it, but the doctors still give it to them, please.
So I think your question is mostly related with the ethical practice and the non-ethical practice. Now, a layman, being a layman, wouldn't understand, because this is a very specialized area, and sometimes it's actually the very specialized, which is the cardiologist or the cardiac surgeon, would actually know.
True.
Not any other specialist would know about the thing. In medical practice, the ethics comes first. We were taught this when we started as medical graduate. When I was in the UK, we had the manifesto. First of all, it is that you do no harm. Yeah, that's the main thing. You do no harm to the patient, because the patient put trust in you. They give you your bodies, and then it's you who has a control on it. And that's where your all ethical considerations come into. To regulate these, we have bodies like Pakistan Medical Commission, which used to be Pakistan Medical and Dental Commission. So now they are the regulatory bodies who look into generally oversee all these practices, and all these doctors are registered with these. I'm relatively new to the country. I can tell about my institute, the Shifa International Hospital. We have a very robust mechanism in terms of when patient comes in, is seen by the cardiologist, he gets intervention. The cases do get discussed, what we call as the MDT, which is a multidisciplinary team. Okay. And then after that, if there is any problem, like any morbidity or mortality, like if the patient dies or has any risks or complications, then it gets discussed in those meetings as well. As a result, there is a check on to the physicians. So it's those physicians who can check on themselves, or their colleague can check on to them. Unfortunately, the layman person has to just trust them. But at the same time, I would like to warn my colleagues as well, with this technology nowadays, and people surviving longer because the information technology is everywhere. When they come to me, they actually know everything about me. I get surprised. When I came to Pakistan, I thought no one knows me. But when they actually come to me, they know much more about me. True. So people do search about, they go and consult other people as well, and they translate into like jib mashwara to karna sunnat hai and things like that, which is fine. I think things do come up, the negative practice will come up onto the surface. As a result, those physicians are ruining their own career.
Exactly. Thank you very much for saying that. And sir, very quickly,
May I intervene?
Sure.
Because this question more particularly related to me, I think so, because I am a cardiologist related to angiography and angioplasty, and Dr. is cardiac surgeon related to bypass operations, but it's very, he elaborated the things very well. So if I summarize the things related to unethical practice, as far as unethical, now as far as doctors are concerned, 99% of the time they don't do this, specialized cardiologists. So why? First of all, as Dr. Sab said, the oath and everything which we have submitted, and most of the time being a Muslim, we have to choose for another person what we choose for ourselves. True. So we have regulatory bodies, for starting from the DRAP, Drug Regulatory Authority Pakistan. Number 2 is Pakistan Society of Interventional Cardiology. So this society was made in 4-5 years before, and this basically society looks everything, and it doesn't register the angiography lab if it is not registered with DRAP, and there are different societies, and we can't place any stent which is not registered in our cath lab. So, and as far as stenting is concerned, it's this basically misconceptions created in our country, and negative things it falls too much.
Obviously, but thank you very much, for sharing with us that, that such checks and balances are in place. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for being with us, both of you. You were lovely early in the morning, for giving us a lot of input on how to actually keep your heart healthy. Well, what I believe is, you really need to keep yourself as your top priority, love yourself, love everybody around you. And that's something, you know, because where the theme actually says use heart for every heart, I think, and when we talked about the 3 pillars, it said that you really need to use your heart for nature. That's something which we will be talking about in the next segment, ladies and gentlemen, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning.
Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we were talking a lot about Dil Ki Baatein, right? So we talked about the heart and whatnot. So also we're going to talk about someone, you know, that is not much known in the social media, a person called Mclean. So he was the first person who introduced the concept of the cargo, and that revolutionized the cargo shipping across the world. With that introduction into our global supply chains, our 200% trade volume increased. A lot of people were lifted out of the poverty because of this invention, and of course he revolutionized the maritime shipping when it comes to that. And so also, but now when we are talking about the revolutionizing the maritime shipping, it is the high time that we need to rethink about the maritime shipping, about the sustainability, and also about the greener aspects of it, because obviously climate change is a reality and we need to take responsibility about that, right? So to discuss more about the greener shipping, about how we can incorporate the element of sustainability in the maritime shipping, it is a major contributor of the global carbon emissions when it comes to that. So how can we do that, and how can we make sure that it is also affordable when it comes to that? We have a wonderful guest in our studio who's going to brief us about it. So I'm really glad that we have Commodore retired Babar Bilal Haider Saab, who happens to be Sitara Imtiaz military, and he also happens to be director National Institute of Maritime Affairs in Pakistan. So assalamu alaikum sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you very much for calling me.
Lovely to have you here. So we would started by making sure that how can we incorporate the element of sustainability in our maritime shipping?
Look, this maritime shipping is a very vast field. Once we talk of shipping, shipping has some human values, some technology coming into it, and then the environment is playing it.
Right.
So, I think we are in 22, and Pakistan is experiencing already the bad effects of climate change. So, this is now I think in the 21st century major issue with the technology development and the application of technology is to control the environment, and we want to focus that whatever we got from our forefathers, we should pass on to our next generations in a better way. That is our basically aim.
Right.
So technology is trying to help us to achieve that goal, and shipping is no excuse in that. So we will be seeing impact of technology on the green ships, which we call it a greener shipping, etc.
And we certainly want to see it, sir, because, you know, and for everybody who's tuned in, ladies and gentlemen, you know, even the Maritime Day was on Thursday, but, you know, obviously since we didn't get a chance to speak about it, we're talking about it because it's really very important.
Right.
Because even during COVID, it was the maritime which actually saved the entire world, with 80% of trade taking place through our, you know, seas and oceans as well. So new technology, sir, that's something which the theme talks about for greener shipping. Now, when we talk about greener shipping, you know, it was just a week ago that I was at Kimari in Karachi, and there was nothing green in it. You know, in fact, even you couldn't even see through water. You know, so we have been polluting our oceans. We certainly do not have those standards in place. What are we doing about greener shipping?
Basically, greener shipping is not a new concept. This is basically just the sustenance of life at sea, sustenance that we want to transfer these old ships or the old technologies to meet the challenges of the climate change.
All right.
Or then protection of environment is our priority now. So, all ships technologies are being transformed into a new ships, or new ships are coming out with the advanced technologies which caters for the protection of the environment, a global planet.
And it's a continuous process.
it
So
is
the
a
hull
conti-
stays the same, but the technology inside is updated.
Yes, like that they are trying to change the engine power, the use of fuel. They want to reduce it. They want to use the solar powers, solar engines. They want to bring in more automation in the ship's design.
Exactly.
And they want to use the more artificial intelligence to cater for the cargo on board ships. So there are a lot of technology, but at the same time it also impact on the human resource also, because once the technology comes into play, the human resource needs to be advanced, or they will be cut off from the jobs.
True.
So the training package of those new technologies is at the same time which we need to focus on it.
Lovely. So Shahzad, I really wanted to share it with you and
Sure.
our audiences around the world, that one of the first people who introduced the concept of sailing were Polynesian people actually, and they figured the decarbonize or the carbon neutral approach with the sailing, because sailing does not take the carbon energy, rather it's the air which is guiding the ship.
Yeah.
But then again, coming to the 21st century, where decarbonization and digitalization are the two very most important themes into that, sailing cannot actually meet the accuracy and efficiency and cannot match the pace of the global supply chains when it comes to that, right?
And
So-
even if we move on to sailing, very sorry, but the problem is, with sailing, 15 to 20 people can actually be at a greater pace and, reach where they want to. But if you have 15 to 20 containers even on your ship, I don't think sailing is going to help, so they already needed special solutions for that. But very sorry, but what I wanted to ask about, sir, was that, since you've talked about what greener shipping is, so, I want to ask you that, for all of these ships, we see massive ships from Europe and everywhere, you go to Europe, you see their water, you throw a coin inside, you can see it, you can get it out of the sea, no matter, or the ocean.
Right.
But over here, what I've seen is that, even those ships kind of come into territories like our developing countries and kind of spill the beans, spill all of that,
Oils,
what they were not supposed to spill in their own oceans, and we are unable to keep a check on that.
Yes, this is the unfortunate part. Basically, it is the capacity of the third world or the developing countries to monitor their own area of responsibility. If they cannot do it, somebody will exploit it. Even those ships coming from Europe, they also do these things over there also.
Okay.
But there is only check and mechanism is in place. So if they violate that rule, they will catch you then and there, and then they will be fined and they will be taken to task. Unfortunate part of the third world is that we make the rules, but implementation of that rules or the monitoring mechanism is very weak. Until unless we improve the monitoring mechanism, we will continue to receive such bad people.
Are we focusing on that?
Yes, Alhamdulillah, Pakistan is trying its best, at least in our 200 nautical miles of EEZ and our areas coastal. But that we can monitor at sea, that other ships are not polluting it.
Okay.
But what we are doing is, we have whole Karachi, the garbage and the whole filth is flowing into the Arabian Sea. So that needs to be checked.
Exactly.
That we are not really serious about that thing. So that is causing lot of harm to the humanity
And the ocean
living to the life in the ocean, as well as the humans us. We consume the fish, whatever the fish is there. So, but if that fish is toxic or that it has been grown in the toxic waters, so we will ultimately receive the bad.
Exactly.
Okay, so while researching about this program, I came across a very interesting concept which is called Power to X. It is sort of a green soil in which the green electricity is converted into the green fuel, right?
Yep.
But it's very expensive when it comes to that. So how can we make sure that we have the blue economy intersect with a more greener solution when it comes to that?
Look, blue economy is also, the word blue economy also contains the sustainability part.
True.
So green shipping is a new phrase, a new terminology, the same, that ocean should be green, green planet. So that is a word which has been coined for that.
Right.
So it is must for the shipping or the maritime sector to adopt the greener patterns, like ships uses fuel and just a rough estimate is about 100,000 ships crisscross Indian Ocean every year, let's say. And there are more number of ships which crisscross the Atlantic and Pacific and all over there.
Yep.
So they can consume lot of fuel. Once the fuel burns, it contributes in carbons. So we want to focus that how the fuel can be reduced or quality of fuel can be improved, or the machinery with the smaller engines or the alternate energy sources like
Solar.
solar or maybe nuclear something because the size of ship is growing. Now we have ships about 500,000 tons oil tankers, mega ships, 14,000, 16,000 container ships, one ship containing carrying so much. So technology needs to be adopted.
Upgraded.
You cannot avoid technology, but technology needs to be amended according to the protection of environment, and we should focus. And that is why International Maritime Organization IMO is usually celebrates on the 29th of September the World Maritime Day with this focused attention that we want to bring our maritime sector in conformity with the greener shipping.
And exactly, and can contribute quite a lot to the GDP too as well, sir, which is why I believe that that a lot of work really needs to be done within this own segment.
Right, sir. I also wanted to talk about, so there is this debate going on around the world, Shahzad, that people really want to decarbonize the maritime shipping by 2050. This is the target that they have set for themselves. With the climate change and its impacts going around the world, do you think it's a more agreeable target? What is being done to walk the talk around this narrative?
As a just part of the research group, I don't think we will be able to achieve that.
Okay.
Look, Pakistan is having 13 ships in today's inventory.
Okay.
Can Pakistan afford to change those 13 ships in next 20-30 years?
I don't think.
And these 13 ships have been accumulated from 1974 to date.
Okay.
In 74 we had 74 ships. Thereafter we started decreasing the number of ships. Now we are left with 13.
Okay.
So increasing a ship or changing the ship, it is not possible. So these ideas or these technologies or the milestones which have been created, it is good for academic purpose, but maybe few of the countries may be able to achieve, but they usually impose it in their own areas. Maybe Europe can do it in their only this. Like there are certain countries which do not allow single bottom ships to enter. They always want a double bottom ships to enter. But there are countries which allow the single bottom ships to enter. So these, I think maybe in the next 100 years you will be able to achieve that the old technology phases out and the new technology automatically takes over.
Exactly.
But not as a milestone. When you cannot replace the things, you cannot delete the things.
Exactly.
It is slow process.
So the technology we've been using, obviously it's not going to go obsolete overnight. I think that's what the point is, so we'll still have to compromise, we bring in newer technologies. But very quickly, sir, towards the end, the only thing which I wanted to ask was, for our viewers who are out there, that for developing countries or the developing islands, when we speak about them, obviously those global standards certainly vary from one place to another place. For a developed country, obviously global standards would be in place. For a developing country, global standards at times can probably be not looked after very well. So to have all of those global standards in place, don't you think that it's going to help the maritime and then the ocean life or the sea life as well?
Yes, at least global standards, there are some ideas or the outlines that we want to achieve this. And the third world country has the capacity to improve. There is a lot of gap. So once you are going towards certain area, you can always adopt to that world standards.
True.
Whereas in the advanced world, they are already to a certain standard. So it is difficult for them because there is no gap.
True.
So they are facing this problem to convert it to adopt it to the actual world standard. But in the third world or developing countries or least developed countries, they have vacuum. So once they start moving, they can always adopt the best of the best demand. So it is easier for us at least because we just have 13 ships and that 2 old ships. So once we induct the 14th ship, we can adopt the latest state-of-the-art ship.
True.
This is an option which we have.
And that's a beautiful way to put it as well. Yeah, that for developing countries it is much easier.
Much easier to go for the fresh adopt new technology.
Wow, and we certainly are adopting, sir.
Yes, this is a $1 million question which you are asking.
Right.
Can I get $100,000 answer for this?
We wish. Again, it is a pocket.
Right.
Exactly.
Of course, we need more resources when it comes to that, and the theme of the Maritime Day was also the new technologies for a greener future when it comes to that. And when we talk about the greener future, I think this remedy is even more important for a country like Pakistan because we have been experiencing the climate-related calamities when it comes to that. So the transition towards the blue economy to a greener shipping is very much important when it comes to that. So with that, we will say a goodbye. Until next time, it's Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.